Hey guys, this is Steve Hemans from the Powrtran marketing team, and I'm here today to share with you some very basic care and maintenance tips for your Python remote kicker steering system, and then we'll also touch on some simple troubleshooting steps in the unlikely event that you encounter any troubles. Alright, so one of the best and simplest pieces of advice I can give you is when you get back from a trip after taking your boat out, just open the battery compartment and let it breathe a little bit. Batteries give off hydrogen gas, and water, salt, and other things can get stuck in that compartment and all together can eat away at the Python's control box. Now, this is good advice not just for your Python control, but for your battery and any other accessories you might have hooked up in there as well, as letting these vapors escape is going to extend the life and performance out of everything in your battery compartment. Alright, so this next tip is for our friends who run in saltwater. And we design and build the Python to withstand salt environments. That being said, salt is a corrosive substance, and it's not a bad idea when you get back from a trip to just take some fresh water and spray down the motor, the linkage, the actuator, and anything else that might have gotten salt on it. Now, the last tip I can give you is at least once a year you're going to want to remove and re-grease your actuator. Now, to do that, just remove it from the system by twisting off the motor and undoing the linkage, and you can slide the actuator out of the tilt tube. Alright, so now that you've got your actuator removed, we're going to go ahead and remove the threaded end here so we can clean inside the tube. Now, it is possible that you can remove this end over here, but it's a little tricky to grip, so I recommend doing the tab end. And when we build these, we Loctite this tab in place. So that's why we need a vise to hold it in place while we break that Loctite. But it's very, very important that when you do this, you don't crush or mar this tube in any way, or it could affect the performance of the system. So make sure that you pad the jaws of the vise down with like an old shop towel or something like that, and don't over tighten it. But once you've got it in there, just go ahead and snug it up real good. Take a wrench or a vice grip or something like that, put it on the tab, give it a good smack, and that should break the Loctite. After that, you can just unscrew the tab and set that tab aside. Then you're going to want to run the ball screw all the way out. Once the ball screw is all the way out, you can go ahead and clean it with a little WD-40, and make sure you spray some inside the tube as well to clean out any debris that might be in there. Go ahead and wipe the ball screw down. And then take it out of the vise to get any debris out of that tube. Snug it back up in there, and now we're going to re-grease everything. Take a marine grade grease like this and give the ball screw a light coat. Once the ball screw is coated, you take your grease gun here and shoot 7 pumps of marine grade grease inside the tube. You clean off any extra that might pop out of there. Now we're going to take the threaded tab end and just clean the threads with a little bit of alcohol to get any of that old Loctite off of there so that it locks in easier. Once you've got that clean, take some fresh Loctite and apply a liberal bead to the threads there to lock this back. Then you can go ahead and screw it into the end here. Take your wrench and lock it in place. Now all you have to do is run the ball screw back in. Make sure you have a towel handy to grab any of that extra grease that might pop out of there. Wipe it down. And you're good to go. Alright, so let's say you do encounter an issue with your system. The first thing you're going to want to check is all of your wiring and make sure that it's in good shape. What you're going to be looking for would be spots like this, where the wire is actually rubbed through. That's obviously no good. But if your wires are in good shape, the next thing you're going to want to check is all of your connectors and make sure that the pins are locked inside the connector. If they're coming apart like that, you're going to want to make sure that you just push them in until you hear a click. Once you've got your pins in order, the next thing to check is to make sure that the connectors are actually working. For the connector to work properly, the pins have to be in good shape inside and not corroded, and the pin connectors have to fit snugly together and lock in place. Alright, so now that you've checked all of your wires and connections, the next thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and test your battery. Now this is very important. Even if your battery is brand new or you believe that it's fully charged, taking a voltmeter or multimeter and running a quick test could save you a lot of headaches on the water, as well as some time and money with your Python. Alright, so now that you've gone through some of the more basic troubleshooting steps, we'll go through some potential issues a little more in depth. Now for some of the fixes to these problems, I'm going to refer you to remove certain components and reinstall them, and you can find the proper steps to do that in the Python installation video found on our website. Alright, so let's say that your issue is that the motor only turns one direction or doesn't turn at all. There's two possible causes of this problem. Number one being that the motor shaft and actuator shaft aren't properly engaged. So to fix that, just remove the motor and reinstall it. The second cause of that problem may be that the linkage isn't properly aligned and level with the steer tube. To fix that problem, just remove and reinstall the linkage. Alright, so let's say you discover that the motor is actually turning more one way than it does the other. There's three potential causes of that problem. The first one being that the actuator wasn't properly set when the linkage was installed. All you have to do to fix that is remove the linkage and set the actuator properly before reinstalling the linkage. Now, the second potential cause could be that the linkage mounting point on the motor isn't near the center of the motor like it should be. All you have to do to fix that is remove the linkage arm and set the bracket properly as close to the center of the motor as possible before reinstalling the linkage. Now the third potential cause of this problem could be that the linkage arm itself just isn't properly adjusted. So just go ahead and adjust the linkage arm and you should be good to go. So let's say your system starts making a weird or loud grinding noise that you've never heard before. Chances are that your actuator isn't properly lubricated. To fix that, just remove the actuator and re-grease it like I showed you earlier in this video. Alright, so let's say you're having an issue with your wireless remote. Chances are it's one of two things. Number one, the battery in the remote might actually just be dead. So go ahead and try replacing the battery. If that doesn't do the trick, odds are that the remote and the transmitter have somehow become unpaired. It's very, very easy to pair them back together, and I'll show you how to do that. Now at this time, you may have one or two different models of wireless remotes. They're very easy to pair, and I'll show you how to do each one. So if your wireless transmitter looks like this and has a program button like this, it's very, very easy to pair. You just press and hold the program button until the light turns red. Then you press a button on your keypad. Once it's blinked, you're paired and ready to go. And if your transmitter doesn't have a program button on it, chances are it's one of our little older style units that can be programmed just like this. Simply remove the red control box wire from the positive battery terminal, press down on either directional button on the key fob, and then touch the red control box wire back to the positive terminal. And the jolt created there should be enough to pair the two together. So with those simple care and maintenance tips, you should be able to extend the life and performance of your Python steering system. And if you happen to have an issue that persists even after going through all these troubleshooting steps, we invite you to give us a call at 1-800-466-7697. Our technical staff is available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and would be more than willing to help walk you through anything you might be going through. We invite you to check out our website at www.powrtran.com for more videos as well as an overview of the other products that we offer. Make sure that you like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter and Instagram.